Good afternoon, this is Paul Turner, the Immigration Barrister at Imperium Chambers. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the notification button for all up-to-date immigration news. Today we're going to be talking about the latest plan from Priti Patel, which effectively means abandoning refugee women and children in what's announced as a new policy change to come into effect. The shocking news is that refugee women and children are at risk of being abandoned or removed from the United Kingdom under the new Home Office policy changes, which in my view are arguably in breach of the UK's international obligations. In what is truly a disturbing insight into how Priti Patel's Home Office's plan to treat asylum seekers under their proposed changes to the immigration rules, most people who currently meet the definition of a refugee, and it's to be remembered that over 50% of people get some sort of status at the beginning, will no longer be recognised as refugees in the United Kingdom due to the method of their arrival. What makes this worse, and what's obviously hidden under the table, is that half of the people that will be affected by these plans are women and children, often the most vulnerable in various countries that I'll come to. In my view, and I believe it is a view shared by quite a few people, including believe the UN, these plans would be unlawful and cause the United Kingdom to be in breach of the Refugee Convention of 1950. But hey, who cares about the law? Arguably not this Secretary of State, given her recent record of reverses in the courts and damning reports by various inspectorates. Anyway, back to the proposed changes. These mean that people that arrived in the United Kingdom using so-called unofficial routes, such as in the back of the lorry, false passports, or in a boat, their cases would be deemed inadmissible and they would be turned away. Turned away as to where? God alone knows. This is a further development in the Home Office's controversial plan to turn refugees away just because they pass through other European countries. I've made a separate video on this, which is fairly entertaining, but do watch it if you want to. Thankfully, the EU has failed to get involved with Priti Patel's dirty games, rather an expected, in my view, kick in the teeth following Brexit. It seems unreasonable that the UK could pull out of the UK and then expect the EU to take responsibility for the UK's obligation to deal with asylum claims. Priti Patel says, however, that she wants to offer support to refugees based on need rather than their ability to pay people smugglers. The problem is that there isn't any proper route for claiming asylum in any country unless you get here first. Patel wants to discourage people from making the dangerous trip to the United Kingdom in a boat. But what she's essentially saying is that people will be turned away on the basis of how they arrive in the UK rather than looking at the actual merits of their case, something which I say is plainly unlawful. Also, she seems to be completely missing the point, if she could ever see it, that if you don't travel to the United Kingdom by boat, if you're rich and comfortable, it's often people that are very desperate. Also, that the current resettlement schemes, which she wants to say people can apply through, are limited to only a few countries and a few thousand people a year. Studies have shown that 2/3 of women and children who currently meet the definition of refugee would be rejected or have their claims deemed inadmissible under the new plans. This research was carried out together with refugees, and they've done an excellent job in highlighting this shocking stance taken by the Home Office in respect of the most vulnerable people that come to this country. Currently, the top 5 countries that people flee from and are found to be accepted as refugees are Iran, Sudan, Syria, Eritrea and Afghanistan. This is for a variety of reasons, ranging from fear of torture, persecution, conflict, civil war, military conscription, or being perceived as domestic terrorists. As I say, it is very hard for people to apply to come here as a refugee if you are outside the United Kingdom, something that the Home Office doesn't encourage. There isn't, say, for example, you can't make an entry clearance application as a refugee from any country in the world. They'll tell you it's just not accepted. And I don't think there are any proposals for such new forms or procedures to be applied. Also, it would mean that individuals have to stay in the country where they fear risk or inhumane treatment whilst their application is processed by the Home Office. And currently the Home Office haven't really covered themselves in glory, given that the backlog of asylum cases is taking longer and longer and longer and longer. There used to be an official policy of dealing with all cases within 6 months. That's been quietly dropped, and cases routinely take several years to be processed. So you wouldn't want to be living in risk for your life in one of those countries for 2 years whilst the Home Office slowly plod through your papers. Anyway, whatever your reason for fleeing your country, it is clear that you will need to take help on the Home Office's new rules. If you are in the United Kingdom and you want to claim asylum, or you have an asylum claim, then I would suggest you make it as soon as possible before these sort of changes come into effect. If you are living here unlawfully and you don't have any papers, again, I would say seek to regularise your status as soon as possible. The longer you leave it, the greater the chances that you will fall under whatever new regime the government puts in, prior, in my view, to it being challenged successfully in the courts. But you will suffer unduly, or could suffer unduly, if you delay. So in short, if you have an asylum claim or you have a human rights claim, make it as soon as possible. Do not wait and do not fall into the traps that are being set by Priti Patel and her Home Office. Thank you for watching this rather disturbing story. I hope you stay well, stay safe. Thank you again. This is Paul Turner, the Immigration Barrister to Imperium Chambers.